Welcome back to The Line. We often hear that although wages are low here in New Mexico, it's also a cheap place to live. Although rent in Albuquerque is far lower than cities like Denver, Seattle, or certainly like San Francisco, many locals are still struggling to pay that rent. The National Low Income Housing Coalition released a report last week that shows workers in Albuquerque, on average, have to work more than one job in order to afford a two-bedroom apartment. Workers in Albuquerque would also need to make nearly $17 an hour to afford the average rent. In Santa Fe, they would need to be bringing in more than $19 an hour. And Steve, that study shows that across New Mexico, renters working minimum wage got to really hustle to put a roof over their heads. Forget about two bedrooms, even one bedroom, if you're really humping it here, is hard. What does this say about New Mexico? Obviously, I made mention we're not as expensive as other places, but do we rely too much on that here and take our eye off the ball about rent here? Have we kind of talked ourselves in a corner about this cheap thing?
Well, I mean, it sounds like a simple question, but it's a complex question.
Yeah.
You know, they looked at the average amount of rent paid. They looked at the average wages of the people who pay rent.
Right.
And then basically what they said was you shouldn't have to pay more than 30% of your average wage for housing. And in Albuquerque, as you said, it ended up that you do have to pay more than 30% of the average wage, say, to rent a two-bedroom apartment. You have to pay about 40%, or you have to work 1.3 jobs.
Wow.
Now, it's also the case, Gene, that if you compare us to the national average is you'd have to earn twice as much to pay for it. So yes, it is cheaper here, but if you're one of the people having to pay for a two-bedroom apartment, you're a single mother with a child.
Thank you.
That doesn't do you a lot of good to know that people are worse off somewhere else.
Exactly.
There is some good news in all this, which is this is actually New Mexico and Albuquerque in particular. This is a good place to buy a house. There was another study that looked at the amount of rent you'd have to pay and compared that to the amount of mortgage payment you'd have to pay for the average cost of a house. The average cost was like $250,000. They compared that to the average rent, the average mortgage payment, and actually the lines crossed in about 2.5 years. So we are a city where it is easier to buy a house. Now the problem is you have to somehow accumulate that down payment.
That's right.
Right. So if you're paying 1.3 times your rent, you're not going to be able to accumulate the money for that down payment.
That's right. Good point there. I really appreciate that. Swing to Santa Fe, obviously expensive.
It is.
Wages are a little bit different because you do have the different minimum wage. We have to bring that sort of into this conversation. Does that affect the idea of housing and rent up there? Has that changed things markedly for working people over the years, do you think?
It has changed things in the fact that you make more money, and that's a good thing. And a lot of people actually take the train from Albuquerque to come get Santa Fe jobs and then go back with their higher wages, which is, it's almost $12 now, I think.
$11.40 I looked up this morning.
$11.40. So it's good, but it still doesn't mean you can afford a house, because our problem in Santa Fe is not just that rent is expensive, it's that there is no supply of rental units. We hadn't built in a while, things got stuck in the pipeline, the recession happened. So you can have all the money in the world and you still can't find a place to live.
That's right. Hence the projects that are happening in Santa Fe to much fanfare. From new public housing and things like that. It's interesting.
Right.
What do you make of this? Is there, I mean, it seems pretty simple. You either have folks making more money or the rent has to be cheaper. And the rent's not going to be cheaper because that's not how landlords work. So folks need to make more money, but $17 an hour is a lot of dough around here for a lot of folks. You know what I mean? I don't know. You see what I mean? That's a real dilemma for folks here.
Yeah, so the rent will only get competitive again when there's another option. And as Stephen had mentioned earlier, you know, we're approaching that tipping point where pretty soon the housing market will be much more affordable than the rental market, at which point the rental market will change. It really comes down to money in the pocket. And, you know, how many residents at, you know, $15, $17 an hour are going to be able to put away additional monies and stuff. And so
15% of $250,000, that's a big chunk of change to come up with.
It is. And you know, when you look at all the other demands on families in today's current structure, it's just extremely difficult to draw down that type of dough to really, you know, make that down payment. Now, in the other arena, it really impacts workforce. You know, people from outside of New Mexico, you know, look at whether it's in Texas, Arizona, Colorado, that all have higher incomes or hourly wages than we do here in New Mexico. They go, wow, well, what's the compelling reason for me to move to save money? And that's the challenge before economic developers, because they need to be able to convince their bosses that they need to relocate here to take advantage of the lower cost savings.
Gotcha.
Which is going to be, it's difficult. It's proven to be difficult unless you're in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, which has its own issues in competing now with El Paso. So, I think that, what we're seeing, this is kind of a sign of things to come, is we really need to be able to position for that future growth and rebrand New Mexico from a business perspective. Tourism, we've got down.
There you go. I like that overall overarching idea, though. That's actually kind of interesting. Julianne, Stephen mentioned something at the beginning of this which caught my ear, which I think about both Santa Fe and Albuquerque. It's a much different situation where you are in a dual income situation in this place, or these two places, versus single. And Stephen mentioned the single mom, the classic single mom who's got to go up against, there's no break on rent for a single mom. There's no break on, things for people in that position. Is that how we should be looking at this? And not just like households, we have like two incomes flowing in.
I'm thinking how we should be looking at this is with a drastic eye for change, an eye for drastic change, rather. So this housing model that we've become so comfortable with in our nation, where you have like your own little four walls and your own little four fence posts and your own water heater and your own kitchen, and we live in a standard in this country that's not repeated all over the world. And this idea that everybody should have their independent home is maybe something that we're going to have to let go of as a society if we really want to put our hard-earned resources in a different way.
Please tell me you are a devotee of the new style of folks going in on a property together and sort of living together.
Don't we all have that fantasy?
I do. I definitely do. I would actually find that a very interesting way to live. You have either friends or relatives that you trust. You all got your little corner of the world. You know what I mean? I like that kind of thing.
And that's the way that, a lot of people lived in Santa Fe for a lot of years, and that getting back to that could really be a solution that we're not thinking about. I mean, with all due respect to, your predictions about the market, which I'm sure, could pan out. But if we thought about it in a really different way, then what could happen? I think the other thing that's interesting is that a lot of the housing projects, the rental projects that were proposed in Santa Fe in the last 5 or 6 years, you had people who owned single-family houses nearby saying, "Oh no, don't you put those apartments in my neighborhood?" And that has to stop too if we really want people to have opportunities to live in equitable ways.
Getting creative, and I hope the market comes back in its own way and stuff. But let's get creative.
Sure.
We have containers.
That's right. That's right.
It's really not typical.
I love the tiny house thing.
The tiny house
there's
thing.
a little bit of a wave in Santa Fe.
A lot of
for
stuff
that.
needs to change in order for containers, and it's not going to do well by the plaza or by the Albuquerque Civic Plaza area.
Sure.
Who knows?
Sure.
Kind of on the other end of the spectrum, we had a story in the Reporter a few months ago where someone was trying to rent their tool shed.
Oh gosh.
And it was like, you can rent my tool shed, you can use my bathroom, but you can't cook meat in my kitchen if you want to be the tenant.
Wow.
And we actually called the city and said, are there any issues with this? And lo and behold, there were. Wow. And that person had to take his listing off of Craigslist. But that's, born from this gap that I spoke of, that there aren't places to rent.
And the other end of it too, I have to say, for our Santa Fe folks, is across the Mountain West, this idea of rentals that are highly impactful on rentals, regular rentals, meaning short-term Airbnb type rentals are really mucking with the marketplace, so to speak. So we'll have to see how that all works. That's all the time we have this week. Let us know what you think of this story or any other topic we covered this week by going to NewMexicoInFocus.org or connecting with us on Facebook or Twitter. Thanks for watching.